Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Lauren.
Hi, Rosamund.
Hi.
Oh, I love your
Hi.
floral top. You look gorgeous today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, you're
Springtime in
welcome.
New York.
Well, you look beautiful. I have to say you're one of my all-time faves. Pride and Prejudice and Gone Girl are two of my favorite films, and of course, I love you as Moiraine,
Oh,
one of
it's on your back. It's on there.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you know
it's
they're
on there.
re-releasing it in
I
the
know.
cinemas.
For the
20
20th
years.
anniversary. I'm so excited to see it again in theaters. Well, first of all, congratulations to you on season 3 of Wheel of Time. Honestly, we have to talk about episode 4 in this season 3. It was truly one of the best episodes so far in this series, especially when Moiraine is seeing all of the possibilities of the future. Take me back to filming that sequence, emotionally and how long it was for you to film that sequence.
Well, I'm so pleased you say that because episode 4 is our most ambitious offering to date, and it revolves around a really key passage in the book, which is about the trial of Ruidian. It's a very experimental passage, and I think, many fans were discussing whether this could ever be filmable and whether we would actually go there, because Rand Althor goes through a trial where he steps back through his ancestors' eyes and relives the history of the Aiel, his people, and Moraine goes into a test called the Rings, where she sees, as you say, multiple possibilities for the future to unfold. And the director, Thomas Napper, who's a very close friend of mine, we talked about how we could convey the rings. And I'd actually sent him a video of myself a few years ago doing this very curious Watsu massage, which is where you're taken underwater and you sort of almost experience a rebirth, and you move in ways that you don't normally move, manipulated by somebody, and you're underwater almost like a baby or a fish. And he was inspired by that to say, can we do that but suspended in air for the rings, which is what we did. But then within that, we had to get this sense that she was in a sort of psychedelic, giddy space where a sort of nightmare of repetitive image was cycling through. And we used this camera arm on a hydraulic arm that would pass on one side of a set. And at the high point of it on the arm, it would flip the image because as it's coming down the other side, the camera is static. So at some point, the image turns upside down, which gives a very disorienting effect. And obviously, Moraine has to see multiple visions of her death. So I had to film hundreds and hundreds of takes of my own death, which is, it's difficult, and you have to hit the floor time and time again, whether your throat's been cut or you've been stabbed in the face, or you've had the young cast as dressed as Forsaken as a sort of vision of a nightmare tracking down a Moraine with shorn hair and dressed in rags. But it was really exciting and provocative, and thanks for mentioning it.
Yeah, no, when you kept hitting the ground all those times, I was like, oh my gosh, this has to be so insane. And I hope I think that episode is one of the highest rated episodes now of the entire series. The fans were absolutely obsessed with it. So definitely bravo on that work.
No, thank you. But you have to
Yeah.
time it with the camera because as the camera is disappearing through this floor of the set, because often we'd have to build these pockets for the camera to emerge from, I had to time the falls so that I would be falling just as the camera was also passing. So,
Oh
it's
my
it's
God.
it's those kind of challenges that where you're working with a technical crew and you have to be so in sync with one another. And your sense of rhythm as an actor, no one ever teaches you that actually the rhythmic approach to the work is sort of vital, as well as the emotional core of it, obviously.
Well, another one of my favorite parts of the series is Moraine's relationship with Suan, and all of the fans love that relationship as well. Can you tease where that relationship dynamic is potentially going to go for the remainder of season 3?
Well, I think you're going to have seen by now our episode 5, where Moraine is able, thanks to Egwene, to visit Suan in her dream. And it's again, we know this as a tortured relationship where there's never enough time and they're never able to be together. So it's very fitting that our writers wrote a scene that they are together, but it's in a dream world.
I
So it
know.
feels real, but at some point you're just torn away from it too soon. As always, with any of their encounters, there's a barrier, there's an obstruction. Um, Obviously, there's been this huge betrayal at the end of season 2, but there's the bond that can never be untied, I suppose. You know, their love for each other is so deep, but it's the idea in the Wheel of Time that there's reincarnation, and so if we didn't get it right this life, maybe we'll get it right in the next.
I'm praying. I'm praying we get to see more, but yes, I did love the dream sequence. I'm also wondering for you, now this is your third season stepping back into the character. What helps you most connect back with her? Is it being on location? Do you take something of hers in between filming? Is it just stepping back into the wardrobe and the wig? What is it that helps you most connect with her when you start filming again?
Well, in season one, it was definitely that bolero that was her sort of her structure in her shoulders. That was, as soon as that went on, I felt like her. Season three, there is this Angreal that she acquires, the Sakanen, which is a very
Yes.
talismanic object, and
I hope
and
you got to
that
take it with
has
you.
tremendous potency. Yes, I do have it. I do have
Oh,
it because I
wow.
needed to work with it and I needed to feel it. And it's and our prop master, who's a wonderful guy, would charge it under the full moon and make sure that because it was a proper, crystal, beautifully shaped
Wow.
crystal, and he would make sure that it was charged and it was handled. And it would be very important to me who handled it, who passed it to me, that it
Wow.
stayed with its energetic force field because these things do get charged with the energy of these big moments.
Yes.
Um, but she she's an amazing person. I mean, now that in season three, I said to Rafe Judkins, our showrunner, I really want Moiraine to be in her power, as she experiences all this. And obviously, in season two, my power was taken away from me, so we had to see a very human Moiraine, which was interesting, but not nearly as fun for me. So I'm delighted that you're now seeing Moiraine back into her channeling prowess.
I love that. Well, last question for you before they wrap me. I have to ask about Gone Girl. It was the 10th anniversary just a couple of months ago in October. And now that you've obviously had time to reflect and look back and think on that film, what was a favorite scene of yours to film or one that you remember the most looking back, 10 years later?
Gosh, I missed that. I missed that it was 10 years. That's sort of,
I
well, that shows
know.
I've had my head down working. I mean, it was the pivotal film of my career, really. It taught me most of what I know about film acting, thanks to David Fincher.
Mm,
Um, Also, how amazing that Fox was willing to make a studio movie about relationships that was as dark as that. It's a phenomenal thing. I mean, I think the most memorable scene is hands down the murder of Desi
I was
because
going to
of
say.
the logistics that, the way David Fincher planned that sequence and how we would repeat it, and the walls of the set would go out, and a bloody bed would leave the set on rollers, and a new pristine bed with fresh sheets, 800 thread count, no doubt, would roll in its place, and we would have a walkway where we would immediately put our hands in water. And then there'd be a complete reset, if you imagine. I was covered in blood. And so we'd go and have a shower and then have the hair all done. And it was like for 2 days, rotating through from the beginning to the end. Just a
It was.
sort of, a bit like what I was describing of this episode four, the visions of the future, the rotation. Um,
Yeah.
kind of amazing. But that for the trust I had in Neil Patrick Harris and for the way the military operation that David Fincher orchestrated, that was where I saw his sort of mastery at its peak, really.
You still have the Amy Dunn bob right now. I love it. I love it when in that scene where you shake
Yeah.
your hair, like shaking it off the blood in that moment. My girlfriends and I love that. Well, they are giving me the wrap. It was so nice to chat with you, Rosamund, and I'm so excited for audiences to continue on with the Wheel of Time season three. I've seen up to episode seven. I am dying for the finale.
Oh, you've seen up to episode seven. Ah, the finale is, yeah, it's quite a dish that we're serving.
Ooh, okay. I'm so excited. I appreciate you so much. It was so lovely to chat with you.
You too. You too.